In the movie Castaway, Tom Hanks is stuck on an island by himself. There comes a time when he needs some dental work done, and all he has is an ice skate and a rock, and he tries to make the best with what he has, but it doesn't turn out well. So having the right equipment can make a big difference. Many years ago, I was asked to be the scoutmaster. I didn't have much equipment at the time, but we went on our first camp out in October, and I just remember grabbing one of my kids, some of their supplies for myself as I was heading out, and I ended up taking this Anakin Skywalker sleeping bag up in the mountains in the cold. That was the longest night of my life. Compared to the people that shopped at Cabela's and had quality outdoor gear and equipment, they slept great. Now, aside from dentistry and camping, having the right equipment can make a big difference in a lot of areas, including sports and athletics. I'm sure some of you have experienced maybe going out golfing with friends and someone has a nicer driver and you try it and you're amazed at what it can do, or better tennis racket, or maybe replace an old worn out glove that's fallen apart with a new one. So having the right equipment can be a big deal in improving your performance. Now, it may seem obvious that having good equipment is better than having bad equipment. I mean, it's a no-brainer, but that's not always the case. Robert Kiyosaki in his financial books had a concept he called big hat, no cattle. He's referring to someone that looks like they're rich, looks like they're successful, got all the goodies and toys, but they're totally broke and they're just financing it all and they're in the red. The same thing can happen in sports. Someone might have the best shooting sleeve and shoes and nicest equipment and clothes, but accessories and gadgets and equipment can't always compensate for athletic ability.
It's the shoes then, right? Nah. Money's gotta be the shoes.
Speaking of shoes, whenever I go to my mechanic, I'm always pointing out a list of repairs or things that need to get done, and he always says top priority, replace your tires, get better tires on there. And the tires of the human body are our shoes. So it's important that we have proper footwear. I once heard a story of a runner that went to the St. George Marathon. That night, as they're getting ready for bed, they're laying out their bib and all their stuff for the next morning, and they realize they forgot to pack their running shoes. It's 10 o'clock at night. They don't have a lot of choices, so they run to Walmart, and they have to just buy a brand new pair of the Shaq basketball shoes, the cheap ones there, $39, the best thing they could find, and ran in those. We're dying with blisters. Obviously, that's not the ideal equipment you'd want for something like that. Jim Thorpe participated in the 1912 Olympics in Stockholm. Prior to his event, his shoes were stolen, and he was scrambling around and found a couple pair of shoes in the garbage can that were old and worn out. They weren't even matches. They weren't even the same size. So he put on some extra socks on one foot and put those on, and he ended up getting 2 gold medals in the Olympics. So that's pretty cool. I was just thinking of all the excuses I'd have if something like that happened. Speaking of less than ideal footwear, let's take a moment of silence for all the NBA players from the 40s, 50s, and 60s that played in these crappy canvas shoes. Guys like Bill Russell, Bob Pettit, Oscar Robertson. I mean, they were amazing players, but I just think what they could have done if they had some decent shoes. I used to wear some Chuck Taylors in high school just for fashion, and I played a basketball a few times in them, and man, that's not comfortable. So anyway, these guys we need to give them a break and rank them a little bit higher on the all-time greats since they did it under those circumstances.
In my day, we didn't have all this athletic footwear. We only had one kind of shoe, and it was size 7. If it didn't fit, you just jam your foot into it.
Anyway, having the right shoes can be a game changer. Make sure if you get shoes that they fit right, they're comfortable, and they're appropriate for the activity you're doing. One of my biggest regrets is that I've never paid more than $75 for a pair of basketball or running shoes in my entire life. I'll always buy the closeout model or the cheaper ones, but I never look at the expensive ones. In fact, I'm 54 years old, and last year is the first time in my life I've bought a nice leather basketball. And it just kills me thinking, man, things could have been so much better if I had good equipment and had invested in that. Things could have been much different.
You better believe things would have been different. I'd have gone pro. In a heartbeat. I'd be making millions of dollars.
So there are exceptions like Jim Thorpe or maybe professional soccer players who grew up playing with a homemade soccer ball and playing on a dusty, dirty pitch without good equipment. I've seen some impressive physiques and bodybuilders who lift weights that don't have nice gyms, but just have makeshift, being creative, doing what they can to get things done. But overall, I would say it does pay to invest in quality equipment, especially if it's a sport you're serious about. Now, the one exception to that would be treadmills and home gyms, because we all know what's going to happen when you buy those. Join me next week for a new video on caffeine. I'll give you my thoughts on that topic. Feel free to subscribe and check out some of the other videos on this channel. There's lots of different topics I've covered, hundreds of videos here to choose from. Could be a life-changing experience for you. Probably not, but it doesn't hurt to check them out.